Was good, Josh? Your boy King Barracuda. Welcome to Straight Convo. So recently, Andrew Wilson, he had a debate with this young lady by the name of Jubilee. They talked about all sorts of topics. The main topic was feminism and feminists actually. He was pretty much destroying her throughout the whole debate regarding feminism. And then when they started to like stray off the topic, like when they talked about things such as colonization and the Native Americans, I felt like Andrew Wilson was inaccurate and pretty much incorrect with the information that he was giving out. I think that was like the only part of the debate where he was completely wrong. But he's such a great debater. A lot of people probably wouldn't fact check him. So we're gonna watch the video. I'm gonna give you my take on it. You know what I'm saying? So let's get into it.
Real quick,
until they've had children.
Why are you asking me questions of answering them now? It's my turn to ask the question. So
why is that?
Because you just internally critiqued, and I allowed you for over an hour at least. My position, my turn. So real quick, can you tell me why it is that when you get to the point where you cannot replace your own population, and you say, well, we wouldn't have a problem with that if we opened it up to immigrants, how is that not you advocating for replacement?
I'm not advocating for complete replacement. I'm not saying people should just stop working and stop having children and it should be entirely up to immigrants. But I mean, if we did have more channels for immigrants to come into this country legally, we might not be so worried about
that replace the domestic population?
What's the problem with doing that, though?
Well,
not all humans.
Would it replace the domestic population?
It wouldn't completely.
All right. They're about to get into it in a few. So but as far as replacing the domestic population, I do agree with Andrew Wilson, because it's like when you bring in thousands of immigrants in the country, they have a different mindset than Americans, because they are more traditional as far as families, and they're more simple people. Like when they come over, they just want to work, start a family, have kids, and they tend to populate very fast, which the American mindset is more of like, I gotta hustle. Family and kids is the last thing on my list. That's how a lot of Americans were brought up and raised to think is, work hard and make money and then worry about family later. Whereas immigrants, they come in this country and they tend to want to work. And some of them don't even work. They just want to have kids in the family, and they'll probably just live off the government. So, that would replace the domestic people. And I mean, I would say that is a problem, because at the end of the day, you have your own country where you can populate and prosper, but you come to another country to replace the people that have been there for years. In my opinion, that is a problem. If you're going to come in here, come in the right way, and then you have to get in line.
Completely replace it.
What it mostly replaces?
It would add. Why is it replace? It's adding.
Because if the people who are... Okay, let me ask you this. Is it a good thing that Native Americans don't have a lot of kids?
Why aren't they having kids?
Well, is it a good thing that they are or are not? Would you rather see Native Americans having more kids?
I mean, I don't...
Like, why is it a bad thing that we came over here and took land from the Native Americans and replaced their population? Why is that bad?
Well, because we killed millions of people and caused significant amounts of suffering.
Actually,
it was human suffering.
Most of what killed Native Americans was not genocide; it was disease.
The Trail of Tears killed millions of people.
Okay, the Trail of Tears didn't kill millions of people.
Yes, it did.
How many millions do you think died in the Trail of Tears?
Let's Google it.
Google it.
All right.
How many millions died at the Trail of Tears?
It says an estimated 4,000 out of 16,000 Cherokee people.
So yeah, I got it right here. About 4,000 people died in the Trail of Tears, which is right, but they did use biological warfare to kill off the Native Americans. So yeah, it was a faster way. You know, it was more rapid and a faster way to exterminate the Native Americans.
Forced to relocate. Let me see deaths.
How many millions?
It says estimate that 6,000 men, women, and children die on the 1,200-mile march called the Trail of Tears, Cherokee.
Okay.
So is 6,000 anywhere close to millions?
So let's just look at
and
colonization.
millions.
How many Native Americans?
Well, the problem is with Andrew, he'd have to understand that they use disease as a weapon to take out the Native Americans. That was a faster way. So don't try to make it seem like they went over there and then they didn't understand. Maybe in the beginning they didn't understand that the natives could not they were not conditioned to handle smallpox, and they weren't genetically strong, or their bodies wasn't accustomed to that disease. You know what I'm saying? They didn't develop immunity or whatever to that disease. But when they figured out the Native Americans were dying from it, they used it as a weapon, and that's a fact. They use it as a weapon because they seen it as a faster way of killing the Native Americans.
People were killed from colonization. Can you Google that one for me?
Yeah, disease.
How
No.
many Native
How many
Americans-
were killed by
How
disease?
many Native
Millions.
Americans killed
The thing is, you can't say disease because they use disease as a weapon.
by...
Colonization.
So that is a part of the
It's millions of
colonization.
people.
No, disease killed them. Disease killed the overwhelming amount of
You know
Native
that
Americans.
we used chemical warfare, or not we?
Oh, we did, huh?
Yes.
So we didn't understand anything
Yeah,
about how diseases
she absolutely right. We
worked, but we were able to use diseases for chemical warfare.
What do
huh?
you mean we didn't understand how disease
When
worked?
do
I
you
never said
think?
that.
When do you think we understood the disease process?
You know,
he's inaccurate again, because when you study history and you see that the Europeans, before they left Europe, before they started to colonize, and the conquistadors started to go on these voyages to the New World or whatever, when they was in Europe, they were plagued with diseases like the Black Plague. So they were already familiar with these diseases, because thousands and thousands, I believe millions, have died from these diseases in Europe. So they understood that if a person is affected, they have to be isolated from another person. They understood that if a person is sick and they're coughing, they're going to spread it to another person. They were already familiar with these diseases in Europe, but they didn't know that the natives were going to die off because they built an immunity for these diseases, you know, over the years. After thousands and thousands have died, they later built an immunity. But when they encountered the Native Americans, they never had those diseases over there. So they would bring in it, and they were saying that they were dying. So every time European would get sick or get a cold, he would use it as a chemical warfare and hand it over, like cough on the blankets, or if one of them had measles or smallpox, they would rub themselves in a blanket and then hand it off to the Native Americans, and then that would spread amongst the tribes. So they did use that as a weapon, and there's so many sources that prove that, and documents that prove the Native Americans stating that they used these things as a weapon to destroy the Native Americans.
You know that smallpox blankets that were infected with smallpox
Total
were
myth.
given and gifted to
That's not a
No,
myth.
it's not.
How?
No, the fuck it's not.
Okay.
That's not a myth, because all right, let's go here. What I brought up. So let me hold this. Let me hold that, and okay. So this is basically showing that smallpox killed 38.5% of the Aztecs, 50% of this. Okay, where was I? Okay, so let's start here. It says native voice but extraordinary little concrete evidence remains. Examples of gifts from white settlers preceding outbreaks occurred throughout South America and North America. Incan history includes an account of their king, a box of paper scraps from the Spanish that was shortly followed by a smallpox outbreak. So the Europeans were giving the tribes a so-called gift, and they would tell them not to open that gift until they get home. They intentionally knew. So, okay, let's keep reading. The Ottawa tribe suffered an outbreak after receiving a gift from the French in Montreal with the injunction not to open the box until they arrived at home. So this proves that they intentionally knew that they were giving these natives diseases, because they told them to wait till they get home, because they knew that the disease was spread within the family or within the tribe. Now you have the family with the disease. Now the family go out and socialize or go out and engage with other groups. They will spread it with them. So now let's keep reading. The box contained only other boxes and moldly particles. So it was nothing in these boxes they were gifting them. It was molded stuff, fungus, and other papers in there. It had no meaning. So that tells you right there, they had a reason behind that, because there's no reason they would just give them a box. But the box was smallpox, was diseases, and they knew once they touched it and grabbed it, they would be affected by it. So they did have an idea on how disease worked. And let's keep reading. Yet the most infamous records of intentionally spreading smallpox to the Native Americans occurred in 17 at Fort Pitt, present-day town Pittsburgh, on June 24, 1763. William Trent, a fur trader commissioned at Fort Pitt, wrote in his journal, after a failed negotiation between the British and the Delaware tribe, he stated that they had given the emissaries food, and a Trent wrote, out of regard to them, we gave them 2 blankets and sick handkerchief out of a smallpox sick hospital. I hope it will have the desired effect. Proves right there they intentionally knew what they were doing, and they used chemical warfare as a weapon to destroy millions of Native Americans. So actually Jubilee was correct. It's not a myth. So yeah, anyway, let me know what y'all think. That's all I got. Like, subscribe. It's your boy King Barracuda. Straight Convo. I'm out.